This street here is like very cool. There's like those designers.
Very, and it's also very,
very low.
very local. Yeah, very low key. Look at this. I absolutely love it. Oh, there's a gallery.
Small one here.
Yeah. Coffee shop.
Spurt.
A cafe, a gallery, a bar. Yes.
Very good coffee here, by the way.
So yes, we are in the kombucha bar.
Yeah,
and
so-
this is one of your, as you said, 3.5 here in Guangzhou.
Yeah.
The kombucha is quite an interesting product because, as you said, you were just telling me the history of kombucha.
Cheers.
Cheers! Yes.
First things first. I think so for this, actually the way it started like in Open-mindedness, back in when we started the bar, we're doing a lot of like different fermentation drinks for cocktails. Because when you ferment different kind of fruit, nuts, you can get really, really interesting flavors. That it's not like the same as if you just use juice and syrups. And also it's more healthy, you got less sugar. So there's a lot of advantage. In Open-mindedness, we've been doing a lot of like low ABV cocktails for a long time. Because the idea is not like drink a lot and get hammered quickly, but more like really come for a good experience, enjoy the different flavors of the drinks. That's been a bit like the mindset.
I think what's super awesome is because Chinese young and also I think global young are looking exactly for that and looking to try new things, are looking to experiment with flavors. They are very open when it comes to what it is they like, discovering who they are through that experimentation.
And I think we're super lucky in Guangzhou because Cantonese are like a crowd that is very well traveled. A lot of Cantonese have family like in Australia, in UK, like in all over the world. So they do travel a lot. But at the same time, it's not like a place like, let's say in the UK, in London, where you have such a strong cocktail culture. For generation, people will be like going to cocktail bar to drink cocktails.
That one thing in that one place.
I want my gin tonic. I want that gin for my gin tonics.
Yeah.
The only thing you could do is maybe to try another gin from the same brands. That's like the space that you have. Where here, people are like extremely open-minded. They're like, hey, I went to London. I went to this bar, this bar, this bar. I like this. I went to New York. Like, what can you do?
And what about Shenzhen?
I think Shenzhen is a bit more, for a lot of the guests that we have, money is not too important, how much it costs, but they want to try something unique or something interesting. So the storytelling is different. Here is more, okay, the flavors will be like that. Where in Shenzhen, maybe slightly more, this is hard to find, it's here and now.
Just for you.
Just for
a lot of money, this is...
And some people, they're like, look, I've got only maybe 1 day of a week. I spend 100 or 200 or 500 RMB.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter too much. But I only got 2 days for free. A lot of Cantonese here in Guangzhou have a bit more times. They might be like doing, a lot of people are doing business until very late. You see them, on the phone, chatting, working. But at the same time, they also like go out a lot. They enjoy it.
They also live. Their work and life are actually kind of put together. There's no big work-life balance because it doesn't exist. There is just life and the part of it is work, part of it is play. I was in a really nice restaurant a couple of days ago. And I was surprised. It's a Michelin-starred restaurant, Chinese, Cantonese cuisine, and it closes at 2 a.m. So I was busy that day at 9:45, so nearly 10 p.m. I get there totally convinced that the place, it's double-story location.
Sounds like
I was very
Chong.
convinced that it is going to be free, or at least I could get a table right away. I had to wait for 5 to 7 minutes. And I said, what's happening? It's 10 p.m. The lady told me, well, right now, everybody's like probably already they had some drinks and right now they want to have some food as well. So basically it's like a second or third dinner. It's this kind of thing. I said, that's amazing.
A lot of people would ask, be like, hey, like Open-mindedness is quite well established in China now. Like, how come? And one of the things, like since very long time ago, we've been doing a lot of events. We've been carrying the flag of Guangzhou or of China in a lot of countries. And I think this is something like a little bit like until now has been missing a bit, is that there is a lot of happening within the country, but there's not a lot of bars, like very few, that would travel to Europe, travel to US, travel to Asia to kind of like explain what they do, showcase.
To become a part of international community, to become a part of the industry in a very kind of settled way, an active way as well.
And the same way, like we invite a lot of bartenders from overseas, but the idea was always kind of going in 2 steps, where first you travel a lot, you start to showcase what you can bring to the table. And if you bring something exciting, very new, very cool or well done, then you will gather attentions. And then those people will be like, hey, I don't mind to come to China to visit you guys.
Yeah.
And the battle is sort of half win because you already generate some interest. If you simply invite bartenders to be like, hey, can you come to China? I've got a bar, let's do an event together. Maybe the passion, the excitement will not be the same. We'll be like, okay, so if you pay me that much, I come. And they will come, they will do their things, thank you very much. But we try to kind of really showcase how much interesting stuff is from here.
So it's for them also an opportunity to immerse in the market, to understand the consumer better, to find new ingredients, new inspirations.
What they can bring back.
Trip.
Yeah, it's not just your master.
No. It's
come
not that
to
you're
teach.
hired to get the stuff done. You are also here to explore and learn and become better together.
That's the game.
Yeah.
It's in 2019 we did a Europe tour. We did like 16 events in 3 weeks. It was like, you know, like London, Paris, Madrid, Kiev, Berlin, back to London, back to Barcelona.
Wow.
It was really, really tough. And all the event was like the best bar in London, the best bar in Paris, the best bar in Madrid. The menu was different drinks in different cities, in different bars, because we wanted to match the cocktail we'd be doing with a bit the style of the venue. It's not like you carry your 4 drinks and you do the same drinks all over the same place. It would not be so sort of like feeling special. But when we're telling the bartenders, say, hey, we do 2 events in 2 days in the same city, but if you want, come back tomorrow because we're at that other bar, and everything would be different. Then the people would be like, oh, I love those 4 or 5 drinks.
I'd love to learn more.
I see you tomorrow because I want to try more.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you do it well, with a lot of passion.
You're building a name. A lot of beautiful ideas. How do these ideas come to you?
I think
Is there a creative team? Is there a brainstorming regiment?
It evolved over the years, because before we were like a very, very small team. So it was like really like, you know, like Andrew, me, maybe like 1 or 2 bartenders from the team giving direction, giving ideas. At first it was very small. Now, because it's getting like more and more menus, we're trying to push to make the team travel a lot more, so they can like experiment, like, you know, what's going on in Singapore, what's going on in Australia, what's going on in Europe. So the more they see, the more they can become like creative.
Bring to the table as well.
Yeah, bringing ideas.
What do we have here?
Just you know, like a very chill garden. So welcome to DSK. Back in 2016, there was not much crowd knowing this area. Donchanko is like, back in the day, was a place where there was a lot of people from the army. So when we started, like more and more people realized, hey, this is a cool neighborhood. And then around like 2021, that's really when COVID was getting under control in China. That's really the time when it exploded, when now there's like 100 coffee shops in like 3 streets.
In just this area, in this neighborhood?
3 streets. It became a really hype district, or like neighborhood within Guangzhou.
So when everybody's talking about 大环境不好, the big environment is not good, some industries are thriving.
I mean, yeah, of course. It's, you know, before COVID, we had maybe around 18 staff. Now we have like close to 100. And that growth was during COVID. Every period, every situation, there's always like a downtime, but it doesn't mean everything is down. When everything goes well, it doesn't mean everyone goes well either. I think it's how you take care of, you know, the environment, how you leverage your resources, your capacity to do more when not too many people want to do something. It's the same for investment. It's the same for hiring people. The worst time to hire is the best time to hire, because you have more choice. It's all this kind of like mindset that we try to have that helped to grow from 1 bar now to 6.
Hi guys, Ashley here. We are here today with Bastien Ciocca, who is the co-founder of the Hope Group, one of the coolest bar groups here in South China. He will tell us all about entertainment industry, about the modern Chinese consumers' preferences, about how they were able to bring their business from a small bar here in Guangzhou to the bar that is on the Asia's top 50 list and on the list of 100 top bars in the world, right? So Bastien, fantastic to spend this time with you. you.
It's my pleasure, actually. A very big pleasure.
Thank you so much. Well, I've prepared a couple of questions, guys, as you know. We want to get all the insights. First of all, tell us a bit about your background. You are from Switzerland. You are right now here in Guangzhou. You are running this business with a Hong Kong partner. So to me, it sounds like a perfect Greater Bay Area plus Europe plus international business kind of story. So how did it start?
So yeah, exactly. I grew up in the French part of Switzerland, in Lausanne. I studied in EHL. It's like a hotel management school where actually I met Andrew there. We were like schoolmates. My wife studied at the same time in Switzerland, but I didn't meet her in Switzerland. I met her in Borneo, where after school I went for 4 years to work in Malaysia, in Shangri-La. That's where I met my wife. And 4 years later, we decided because she's Chinese, she's from the Xinjiang, from the north of China. So I kind of like convinced her, let's go to China for 1 year to work with Shangri-La and to see, to learn a bit the culture, the food, the language more, because that's her home country. So I arrived in Guangzhou with her in 2015. At that time, you go on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and then Andrew, me, we start to be getting in touch, to be like, hey, you're here, me too. We had a few times a coffee, a drink. And 1 year after, we decided to leave hotels. I left Shangri-La together with my wife. We got married back to Switzerland and then came back to Guangzhou. Andrew used to work, he was the assistant F&B director in the Grand Hyatt in Guangzhou. So we all kind of had that hotel background. And then we decided to open a cocktail bar in Guangzhou. The story was at first we didn't really know what to open. Be a restaurant, be a bit like question mark. But the location we found didn't really work as a restaurant. So we're like, you know what? Okay, let's
do a bar.
Let's do a cocktail bar. I had bar experience before. I worked in cocktail bars in Vancouver, in Switzerland. We were thinking, okay, how we can sort of combine all the strengths and then start a cocktail bar. So Hope and Sesame was born in 2016.
And Hope and Sesame is that bar that I mentioned earlier, the one that is the Asia's top 50 list.
It's been incredible because now it's 6 years in a row on that ranking. When we opened the bar, we didn't really had clear, directions. But I think one of the shared vision we had was to have a benchmark very high. You wanted to compare your own place with the best bar in Singapore, the best bar in Hong Kong. So that was a bit the game is to really try to do a top destination.
And I think it's also super important to look at the other people in your industry, right? And see what are the steps that they took. Success always leaves track, right? And instead of being just local, if you aim higher, you need to be part of that international community.
No, that's very important. And I think that's one of the things very early in the days of the bar. We were we wanted to showcase what we do, because to be true, Guangzhou is not a very an international sort of city. Not a lot of people come here for leisures, for holidays. It's a big city. I mean, we're talking about 20 million people. There's a lot going on here. There's a saying that anywhere in the world, you would always be 3-4 meters away at max of something that come from Guangzhou. Be it your phone, your furniture, your glasses, everything is produced here. But it's not a touristic destinations. So when we started the bar, we want to show what we do. So we started to travel in Shanghai, in Hong Kong, in Shenzhen to start to do events, and then slowly it became Singapore and then Europe.
How would you describe the Chinese consumers' attitudes towards the nightlife, towards the bars, towards the cocktail bars? Because some might think that it's still very new, very young, very unusual. Can you really motivate them to come consistently, or is it a one-time thing where people say, okay, let me try something new, but it's not part of a lifestyle?
I think there's two things super important. The first one here, Guangzhou have a very, very big sort of food in mind. Cantonese are very food.
It's all about food.
It's all about food. It's very different than Shanghai, than Beijing, than Chengdu and other countries. But Guangzhou is really, really about food. People will not really spend a lot of money on fashion brands, on luxury goods, but they will spend a lot of money on food. That's a fact. And not recent. For forever, the Cantonese cuisine is considered the fine dining cuisine of China. All the Cantonese restaurants in the world, all the Chinese restaurants are mostly Cantonese restaurants. So first of all, you've got a big community of foodies. And then a lot of Cantonese, like we were saying before, travel a lot in the world. There's a lot of family, relative living abroad. Since they're young, they used to travel. On my WeChat, I see a lot of people posting when they go on holidays. It's quite funny that when a Cantonese go on holiday, a lot of time, you'll be going to all those cool restaurants, hip cafes and cocktail bars, where a lot of
food tour, basically.
It's a food tour where other people will be more going on the beach, somewhere trendy, somewhere touristic, but that's not really Cantonese. So I think when we opened, I didn't know that, but we had like that opportunity of people are very, excited about like new flavors, new taste. So a lot of people started to come to our bar because it was something very new. And then slowly you establish yourself as being like an innovator, as like bringing new flares. So very quickly the word spreads.
When it comes to the past couple of years, so obviously we've just recently come out of the pandemic, and it's been challenging for F&B industry around the world, and here in China it was also quite peculiar. What's your view on the post-pandemic recovery, and also are there any changes in the industry, in the consumers, in the preferences, in the business before 2019 or after?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things change. It's not only because COVID, but it's like a lot of things happening in China with the geopolitics, a lot of factors sort of like influence the way people behave. COVID sort of helped people to start to learn how to make drink at home or how to drink with friends in park, outdoors.
There was this one year when everybody was buying whatever Jack Daniels,
and
Jamie Walker mixing, having those stations at home.
So I think it's things like that now. For like this big trend in Shanghai where you will find those people online that you pay them like something like 50 RMB, 100 RMB, and you go drink in their apartment, and it's like free flow for a few hours, and then make drinks and stuff. There's a lot of like new movement of different new way of drinking. You go to Shenzhen, there's tons of those like drink in the street lounge where a guy set up his small,
and sometimes even out of the car.
Exactly.
They would open up the trunk, and then there's all the lights coming out of it, music blasting.
Or like camping trolley, and then they will have like movable tables with bottle shaker and everything, and the drink would be super cheap. So I think one of the things that is moving now in China is like either the price become really sensitive and get lower and lower, or what we focus more is like you create so many different experiences. It's not about drinking, it's about everything that goes around, make you feel you're in a cool place.
It's an experience.
Exactly.
You're buying an experience. If you're selling a product, somebody just wants to chibao, somebody just wants to eat,
cheaper.
They go to they go for the price, they go for the food court rather than the restaurant like before. They order 2 dishes instead of 3. But if it is an experience, people are still willing to treat themselves and spend money. You've set up a business, obviously being from Switzerland, you've set up a business with a Hong Kong business partner here in Guangzhou. How has the experience been? What have you learned? Is it a difficult industry to tap into, to grow, to collaborate? Were there cultural shocks, difficulties? What were some of the biggest lessons and experiences that shaped your current success?
But I think one of the things, China is a very, very dynamic country. Last year we did 220 events. So it's non-stop. It's every day, every night you have things happening. It's tough because when we started Open Semi, it was a very small team, just a few people. So it's very easy to manage. You know everything and so on.
How many people do you have now in the whole group?
Close to hundreds now. So it grew a lot. And then I think it's just about trying to keep pace and moving to different sort of roads because you cannot track everything happening. So you kind of have to pick your battle, but then try to really help where you can. There's a lot of opportunity and it's always like a challenge of trying to balance of like where you stand and then how far you want to be involved or different idea you want to bring in.
But also this environment, I was just having a dinner with a couple of old China hands that been developing in Guangzhou, from trade to some organizations to various businesses across industries. And what they are saying is that this environment pushes you to innovate. You either learn to swim and swim good, well, fast, or you are going down at some point because you're just not able to stay above the water. And in many ways, any business grows with the market, grows with the consumer. When the market keeps pushing you, you have to stay agile, you have to stay innovative, creative, you need to go forward. Once the market is kind of stagnant, everybody's super chill, super relaxed, you are inevitably, you stop developing. And in business, there's only 2 states. You're either growing or you're dying. There's nothing in between. There's no stasis. It's either growth or death. So do you feel that this environment also forces you to innovate?
I think it's not necessarily the environment force you, but I think it's more the mindset. If you always be like, okay, what's next? Let's not keep everything for too long. Like Open Semi, we already had like different round of renovations. Even like when we just opened 7 months after we closed the bar to renovate it. And all my family were in Switzerland was like, but you just opened. Why you close for renovations? Because in Switzerland, you would wait 20 years
before you
start to do something. So I think here you have everything available. You have everything, all the supply, the factory can produce things for you. So it's more the idea of like, okay, maybe it's not broken yet, but either to wait until there's a problem and you fix it, why not to change? And here is a good example. The DSK, before it was called Charlie's. Charlie's was really busy. It was very crowded. But we thought, let's try something different. And now it's called DSK Cocktail Club. It's a very different vibe than before. Not saying before it was not good, but then I think that's the mindset of trying new things, trying different ways. We don't like, with Andrew and the team, we don't like copy-paste. So every bar have a different menu, different style of drinks, even different way of presenting the cocktail. It's not just, A for here, B for there, and so on. The more you do that, the more you think of like always, okay, what's next? This also become very precious for our consulting project, because having a few bars and then you work and it's fine. But then when you start to have 20 different projects for consulting, you need to have that thinking like, okay, A, what we can give, B, what can we do, C, what can we do? Because you cannot copy paste in China. It's very quickly, people will say, but you did that
Somebody
here.
can do it cheaper. Yeah, you always need to push forward. And in your experience, what would you say are the most important factors to succeed in the as an entrepreneur in the China market today, be it in your industry or in general?
I think it's our industry or general is the same. It's like you need to have a very good team, because if you have good people in your company, then you can achieve a lot. Some of the months, like in March, with Andrew, we've been traveling to do a North Canada, North US tour. We did a lot of events in Vancouver, in Toronto, in New York. And for 1 month, we're not at the bar at all. But everything was very stable. There was no, no hiccup, nothing. If we didn't have a good team, you cannot do that. You cannot experiment, travel, accomplish more. So it's always been sort of like trying to strengthen the process, grow the team, having the best element in the right positions, and then you can achieve a lot more.
And how to get a good team in China? Are there differences between hiring, training, working with a good team, let's say, anywhere else in the world, or is it pretty much the same?
But here, I think one of the challenges is like a lot of people lack of like international experience. Not so many people have traveled outside of China before. So we try to find people that have like a good attitude, a good personality, and then we try to make them travel with us, or we send them for competition, or we send them for events in other countries. So suddenly with their attitude, with everything they carry from what they learn with us, then they can explore the world and grow and then understand better. Where some other countries, people will have a lot more experience, better traveled, but they might not have the strength of the people from here.
A lot of industries are struggling today in China. The market is recovering very slowly, the consumer sentiment is down, and the general feeling, right, is China used to be very optimistic. Tomorrow is going to be better than today and all that. That feeling in the young people is kind of shifting. At least a lot of people feel that, tomorrow is going to be like today, or it might even be worse, so you never know. So what, in your view, is going to be the future of the industry in the next 3-5 years? Are you optimistic about that? Are there a lot of changes ahead? Is the economy going to recover and we're going to go back to whatever normal was before?
I think yes, and it will take some time because you have two things. You have the facts and you have also the mood.
Mood is so important.
And the mood, I think, is probably worse than the facts, but that is hard to really,
it's an emotional response. It's so hard to change.
And it's the same actually for him, like if you compare with the stock market, a lot of companies are doing extremely well compared to a few years ago, but because maybe they miss one target, then all the investors are like, oh, this company now, like, I don't trust anymore, I sell my stocks. But when you look at the books, you're like, no, they're doing a lot better than everyone could hope a few years ago. But people will be like, no, it's glooming. And so I think in a lot of industries, like in China now, like the feeling is like everything is like currently down. I don't think it's going to last a lot. I also don't think everything will be back like before, because it's never back. It's always growing or evolving to different directions. The people that learn how to make cocktail at home, they will still sometimes make drinks at home. It's not like they will just forget and then never do it again. So I think it's growing, it's developing. And then it's more like how we navigate in 5 years time or in 10 years time to still be relevant. We opened Open Sami for 8 years. The business has been very, very consistent for the past 8 years. Until now, like you have to book in advance and we have different rounds of bookings. I'm not saying like, oh, we found found everything is perfect and we found the best ways, but you always have to think, okay, how can we improve things to stay relevant?
And I think that challenge that you're facing, how to stay relevant consistently, is the challenge that every industry is facing, be it luxury, be it skincare, be it entertainment in a broader sense. So how do you track consumer desires, consumer changes, trends? How do you, when you're forced to innovate so fast? We were earlier talking about the fact that the menu is changing every couple of months completely from scratch. Every single item is new and there are themes. So you're forced to innovate so fast, so much, but yet you want to stay connected with what is trendy and what the customer wants. How do you stay?
But I think it sounds a bit big to say that, but there's ways sometimes you can try to create the trends.
Yeah.
So for example, like Sanyo, when we created Sanyo, there was no Chinese cocktail bar using a lot of baijiu in modern ways in across China. There was not much.
And of course, Mo Tai was super trendy in the past 2 years with the stocks and all that. So you could aim to.
Yeah, I mean, Mo Tai is hard to work with. we actually almost had a project with them to help them to open a bar. CEO change. No, I think the Sanyo, for example, like it was kind of trying to play against the odds of baijiu is not something popular to young Chinese consumers. So let's use a lot of Chinese spirits. Now we're pushing a lot of Chinese whiskey. A lot of people think, is it that good? Is the quality? But we're trying to tell people, hey, these are very good. And if suddenly become a things, that's where people will be like, okay, maybe it's Hope and Sammy will help to push, the boats in the ship in one direction. And that's where you sort of create a bit of trends or movement.
So instead of just tracking trend, you are also consciously trying to create trends.
Trends come from somewhere. Either you just look online on Instagram, like what's trendy, or you think, okay, what would we do that it will make it.
What can I give some spotlight to?
And for example, like right now, like in our consulting project, we're putting a lot of time to research like AR, like AI, a lot of like technologies of how can it suddenly become exciting inside the cocktail bar situations. There's not a lot of like bar groups or consulting or cocktail bar in the country that go as far as we go. The menu in Hope and Sammy you saw last night, there's not one single picture. Everything is AI generated. It's not like we couldn't take a pictures, but we want to push the team, say, okay, how far can we become creative with new tools just to think of like new ways of doing things.
So apart from running your own group of bars, you're also helping other companies to develop concepts for their bars and cocktails and support their business. What is the biggest challenge of the clients that come to you and say, hey, we need help with the bar, with the entertainment, we're a successful hospitality group? What is the pain point that they're trying to solve? Is it the technology, as you said right now, the technology we're trying to make it immersive, make it fun, make it AI powered, or is it the flavor, or is it the fact that the community doesn't want to come to a big brand, they are aiming for niche?
I think one of them, a lot of like luxury like hotels or bars, when they reach out to us, the hardware is there. It's very nice, the quality of everything, but then it's just missing a bit of storytelling. And that actually creates a big impact if your story is aligned with everything. So a lot of time, like you come in a place, everything is beautiful, but you're like, okay, but it's just another menu and so on. So I think that's where we come in to be like, okay, how can we make something suddenly a lot more exciting? For example, like the Mandarin Oriental in Shenzhen, that's one of the projects we did from pre-openings. Everything was perfect, but the hotel had 8 years delay on the openings. So the concept was designed 10 years ago in Shenzhen. Shenzhen is one of the most dynamic cities in the world. So 8 years old concept in a hotel, it was not going to work very well. When we came in, it was only a few months before the openings. The GM like trusts us a lot. We changed the complete storytelling. We created like a team around like a Chinese press kind of warehouse. Where because China created the printing techniques, it's not the Gutenbergen, which a lot of people think, but actually it's way behind, way before. And then all those Chinese character was made of clay and wood and copper. So we kind of research in that directions. Then the cocktail menu was printed in front of the guests every night. So you had these very old vintage press machines. Guests come in, you get pressed, here's your cocktail menu. And everything is like the storytelling is very old Chinese, but the drinks are super modern. So you have like a lot of like layers of, you get more exciting. We did some cocktail menu in Beijing where we involved different like music groups, which are quite famous in China, a lot of different artists. And we reach out to them and say, we want to create a cocktail about you. So you spend a lot of time.
And they go excited.
and then the guest is like, oh, I love this band. They're famous. And the band would come to the hotel because they're like, hey, I have my picture in the cocktail menu. in this hotel. I think that's one of the key parts, like how we link things together. This is a strength that we have.
History, popular culture, the concept of the location.
And another way is like sometimes we work with more international groups where they have maybe the headquarters for example, like we opened a beautiful bar for Ralph Lauren in Chengdu.
Yeah.
The core team is in New York.
Yeah.
So for them, the business in New York is extremely successful. The Polo Bar, it's a restaurant you need like weeks in advance to get a table. But for them, it was a challenge of how to connect with Chinese consumers because the way the New Yorker drinks is not the same way as Chengdu consumer would drink or eat and so on. So we kind of try to be a bridge between like understanding all the traditions, who they are, but at the same time knowing that really young consumer sort of like population in China. That's where we can bridge different ideas. So it really depends. Each project have this own challenge. But in a nutshell, that's two parts where we help a lot.
Help the most. And the last question. So looking ahead, what do you see as the greatest opportunity for the China market when it comes to disrupting the Chinese F&B industry, or in general as the foreign entrepreneur coming here to do business in China as a whole or as a South China? Do you still feel that there are opportunities, and what are they?
So of course there is. There's always opportunities. That's for sure. Now, China is very big. So it's almost like you need to choose a place and study a bit first. Beijing to Shanghai to Chengdu to Tianjin, it's all different worlds. It's a little bit saying like, let's open a bar in Europe. And you don't care where in Europe, but it would not work the same way in Dublin or in UK or France or Switzerland or Italy. Understanding a bit like what you want to do and where, that's one thing. I think in general, Chinese are very advanced when it comes to like, scanning a code, payment, choosing item, the photography, like everything is very well done compared to a lot of businesses in other countries. I'm not saying it's better, but the way it works here.
You need to have high standards.
Yeah, like people expect a lot.
Yeah.
I give you a stupid example.
Yes.
When we got married with my wife,
we
went to Switzerland and we were looking for a cake, for a wedding cake. We went to a lot of pastries, like the really premium, fancy, pastries everywhere. And we're asking for picture of cakes. The guy was like, we don't have picture of cakes. Like, tell me the flavors you want and I do it for you. You go to China, people come with iPad and they show you all the different variations.
From all the angles, a video of the cake turning.
Exactly. So that's the mindset of here. It's a very, very competitive market. You have a lot of like restaurant groups, milk tea groups, like beverage will open and close every single day. So it's like you have to always bring a lot to the table to make something work. Where some other countries that it's not that stressful, that's like sort of like a fast pace. But at the same time, you don't have to follow all those trends like here from like you cannot order in our bar from a QR code. We're not a takeaway or like a fast food kind of like restaurants. So it doesn't mean you have to follow. But you need to really understand how people consume, what people sort of like, what's their habits, and then how can you bring something new, but not too far away from the way they used to.
So being in the market is important, experiencing it, coming up with an open mind and willing to work.
It's a different world compared to like the social media are different, the mindset is different, the flavor profile is different. So you cannot come in and say, oh, I've been very successful in Singapore.
Somewhere else.
And I come and I do the same.
And that is why also today so many more companies are actually coming to China to get an inspiration. Be it tech companies that come here to see the technology in action or learn how, let's say, social commerce is done, or how new energy vehicles are being not just produced but integrated in the smart cities. But beyond just technology companies, who is coming here is actually brands, where they realize that in order to inspire the truly global collection for their global consumer around the world, from the US to Europe to Africa to Latin America, they also need to get the China element, because there are a lot of new consumption brands. There is a lot of creativity. There's a lot of culture that is being weaved into the modern design and modern let's say drinks or whatnot, and you can enrich your own collections, inspirations, etc. by that. So we are seeing a lot of brands coming here, learning not just for China. It's not learn for China, but they're learning from China for the global operation, for the global collections, for their global business, which is beautiful. Thank you so much, Bastien. It was fantastic. Guys, do check them out when you're in Shenzhen, when you're in Guangzhou. Hit Bastien up on LinkedIn as well if you're looking for consulting services and of course interested in how to grow your F&B business in China or anywhere else into what these guys have created. Thank you so much again. Stay tuned for more Ashley's Digital China episodes to come.
Bye-bye, guys.